the pure eyes of Mrs. Deborah Wilkins, who, though in the 52nd year of her age, vowed she had never beheld a man without his coat. When Mrs. Deborah returned into the room and was acquainted by her master with the finding of the little infant, her consternation was rather greater than his had been, nor could she refrain from crying out with great horror of accent as well as look, "My good sir, what's to be done?" Mr. Allworthy answered she must take care of the child that evening, and in the morning he would give orders to provide it a nurse. "Yes, sir," says she, "and I hope your worship will send out your warrant to take up the hussy its mother, for she must be one of the neighbourhood, and I should be glad to see her committed to Bridewell and whipped at the cart's tail. Indeed, such wicked sluts cannot be too severely punished. I'll warrant 'tis not her first, by your impudence in laying it to your worship." "In laying it to me, Deborah?" answered Allworthy. "I can't think she hath any such design. I suppose she hath only taken this method to provide for her child, and truly I'm glad she hath not done worse." "I don't know what is worse," cries Deborah, "than for such wicked strumpets to lay their sins at honest men's doors, and though your worship knows your own innocence, yet the world is censorious, and it hath been many an honest man's hap to pass for the father of children he never begot, and if your worship should provide for the child, it may make the people the apter to believe. Besides, why should your worship provide for what the parish is obliged to maintain? Faugh! How it stinks! It doth not smell like a Christian. If I might be so bold to give my advice, I would have it put in a basket and sent out and laid at the churchwarden's door." Mr. Allworthy now gave Mrs. Deborah positive orders to take the child to her own bed and call up a maidservant to provide it pap. He likewise ordered that proper clothes should be procured for it early in the morning, and that he should be brought to himself as soon as he was stirring. Allworthy here betook himself to those pleasing slumbers which a heart that hungers after goodness is apt to enjoy when thoroughly satisfied. The Gothic style of building could produce nothing nobler than Mr. Allworthy's house. It stood on the south-east side of a hill, but nearer the bottom than the top of it, so as to be sheltered from the north-east by a grove of old oaks, which rose above it in a gradual ascent of near half a mile, and yet high enough to enjoy a most charming prospect of the valley beneath. On the right of this valley opened another of less extent, adorned with several villages, and terminated by one of the towers of an old ruined abbey, grown over with ivy, and part of the front which remained still entire. The left-hand scene presented the view of a very fine park, composed of very unequal ground, and agreeably varied with all the diversity that hills, lawns, wood, and water, laid out with admirable taste, but owing less to art than to nature, could give. Beyond this, the country gradually rose into a ridge of wild mountains, the tops of which were above the clouds. It was now the middle of May, and the morning was remarkably serene, when Mr. Allworthy walked forth on the terrace, where the dawn opened every minute that lovely prospect we have before described to his eye. Miss Bridget rings her bell, and Mr. Allworthy is summoned to breakfast, where I must attend, and, if you please, shall be glad of your company. The usual compliments having passed between Mr. Allworthy and Miss Bridget, and the tea being poured out, he summoned Mrs. Wilkins, and told his sister he had a present for her, which she thanked him, imagining, I suppose, it had been a gown or some ornament for her person. But if such was her expectation, how was she disappointed when Mrs. Wilkins, according to the order she had received from her master, produced the little infant? Great surprises are apt to be silent, and so was Miss Bridget, till her brother began and told her the whole story. Miss Bridget had always expressed so great a regard for what the ladies are pleased to call virtue, and had herself maintained such a severity of character that it was expected, especially by Wilkins, that she would have vented much bitterness on this occasion, and would have voted for sending the child as a kind of noxious animal immediately out of the house, but, on the contrary, she rather took the good-natured side of the question, intimated some compassion for the helpless little creature, and commended her brother's charity in what he had done. A consultation was now entered into how to proceed in order to discover the mother.